Oh, sword fans and freaks alike, like myself, you are going to like this today. This is a sword made by the swordsmith Kunitada from the Miike Province of Japan. She is a real piece of art, a real beauty, one of the top 3 in my collection. No, I don't keep it here at the dojo, so don't try to break it and steal it. These are beautiful weapons of war. This is not some knockoff, this is a real hand-forged Japanese sword from a long lineage of master swordsmiths. So if you have a few minutes, join me. Let's go over this beautiful thing and talk about the pieces. I'm not an expert, but I enjoy quality when I see it, and this is a high-quality sword. Join me. Depending on how long the ska is of the sword, you might have one mikugi, which is this peg. Sometimes there's a secondary one down here, so you'll have to search for it. A lot of the older swords just had one. It's a shorter sword. Now you have the 2 sides of the sword here. This is the omote side, and this is the ura side, the inside and the outside. The omote side has this nub here which holds the sagyo. This is the one that's on the outside of your belt. This is close to the body. Find the mikugi here, find the peg, which is right here. And I'm going to use this mikugi nuki, which is a little hammer that comes in the cleaning kit. You can buy these cleaning kits on Amazon or anywhere. Just look up sword cleaning kit on Google. Unscrew this little peg, which allows the pushing of this out. And you have this little hammer here made of brass. Locate. These mikugis are tapered, so know that if you bang it on one side and it's not coming out, try the other. So I can see by looking that this is the wide side and this hole is the narrow side. Put the peg in the hole and gently hit until this little piece of wood comes out here. This is all that's holding the handle on. That's all you really need. Of course, you can make these. You can carve them. Often cleaning kits like this one come with extra ones. I'm going to keep the original because it's handmade here. And then of course you would put it back the same. Okay, now that the pin has been taken out, you have the sword itself. You can carefully remove the saya. Scabbard here, be careful. Hold the sword in your right hand or left, depending on what's dominant. Hold it at an angle. Strike down to relieve the handle here. So you can hear that sound. That means it's just popped loose and you can see the space it's created. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 hits. Don't hold it straight up, it'll just go up and down again. If you have trouble removing this because it's rusted in or it's old or malfunctioned, you can use a wooden mallet and a wooden piece of, obviously piece of wood to hit lightly on the tsuba guard to relieve it from the blade. So now these pieces will come off here. The fukuchi and the suka come off. This is a seppa, which is a little spacer, kind of like a little washer. Tsuba guard, beautifully made. Look at that. I'll get into the detail of it later. Another seppa here, and the habaki. I'm going to take the habaki off here. That's the little blade collar. Now we can see the beauty of this tang here. I'm not going to touch the polished part, but you can see the beauty of that that signature on the omote and the ura side, both of the sword. One is the date it was made, and the other is the swordsmith himself who forged this blade. How cool is that? Let's go over the detail of the kanji and the blade itself in a much closer view, okay? Stick with me, friends. Okay, my friends, now remember, I only know about 50 or so kanji or Japanese phrases. I mean, it was enough to get me around when I was in Japan, but I'm not a sword reading expert. I'm an expert at using the sword, but I'm not a historian. These swords are made by smiths in Japan, and there are experts that can read and look at these swords and assess them. That's their job as a living. So please forgive my ignorance when looking this over. I do know that mei, which are the signatures here on the nakago, the tang, they're inscribed away from the body when the sword is being worn on the hip. So you wear the katana on your left hip. Therefore, you have the ura side and the omote side of the blade. You would only wear the blade down here if it was a tachi. So the old style swords were held blade down. Modern or katana are held with the blade up. Pirates, blade down. Samurai, blade up, okay? On your left hip. So you had the side that was close to your body and the side that was away from your body, the ura and omote side. So on the back side, this talks about the date that it was made and, the year and stuff like that. On the front side, even though it's covered by the ska, the handle, this is where the swordsmith's name is and the province that they're from. So you have the name out here and when it was made on the inside, as you can see here by the Mei signatures that were inscribed here on the sword. So remember, blade up for the katana, blade down for older style tachi. They were read from top to bottom, so you would read them this way, okay? Top to bottom when you read these. And there are some commonalities to signatures of really old or well-made Nihonto blades. So on the omote side, it reads, Kore wo tsukuru kunitara ju Miike. Each one of these has a meaning to it. Here is Miike, which is the province, the city where he lives, or the swordsmith lived. In this case, this is on the northwest coast of Kyushu Island, here. And then this next kanji is Ju, which means that he's a resident of this province here. Kumi is province. Tara here is his name. This is Sukuru, which means made or made by. And this is Kore, which is this. So this sword was made by Kunitara in the province of Miike. Flipping it over to the ura side, which is the inside, the side close to the samurai's obi belt. This has to do with the date, okay? So this translates as Heisei 4 Nen Gatsu on this auspicious day, or Heisei Nenku Gatsu Kichihi. Here is Heisei. Heisei means the present day. Remember, Japan's history is broken up into eras. So Heisei is the present day right after Hirohito died, which is 1989 to the present. That's this era. You've probably heard of the Edo era, the Edo period, Tokugawa era. So this is the Heisei era that you and I will live and probably die in, 1989 to now. Then here's the kanji for the fourth, or four. This is Nen, which is year. Ku, which is 9, or the 9th month. This is telling you what month it was made. And the Gatsu is month here. Kichi means lucky or auspicious. So it was an auspicious, and then he is day. So this sword was made on this auspicious day on the 9th month, September, year 4, so 89, 90, 91, 92. So it was made in 1992, because you take the year 4 and you add it to the period of the beginning of the era, which is the Heisei era. So you can see now that these swords have quite a bit of information on here if you know how to read them. I'm certainly no expert, not very good at them. You have to do your research just to see. But there are some commonalities of the dates and the provinces and things like that. So there is the signature on the tang of the sword, and this is a really beautiful sword. Now, looking at the blade here, it's beautiful, and we'll go over that in detail. Kunitara, who was the swordsmith, was born in 1954 into the famous Komiya family of swordsmiths. So some of you out there might know the Komiya family. They were swordsmiths of the Tachibana in the Chikugo Yanagawa clan. So Kunitara, born in 1954, was the son of Komiya Kuniharu, who was his father. And then his father apprenticed under the great father Komiya Kunimitsu, who would have been Kunitada's grandfather. You can see they take these lineages of these swords very seriously over there. The family were known throughout Japan for forging what's called wazamono. Wazamono are classes of great swords and swordsmiths who are ranked in Japan for their quality of blades. Now, Kunimitsu, who is the grandfather of Kunitada, he was known to have made some of the most famous owazamono, which are excellent quality ranked swords. Now, this isn't going to be in some museum, I'm sure, but this is a good or excellent quality sword, with the exceptions of one or two little faults there. So this is made by the grandson of Kunimitsu, Miike, or Kunitada from the Miike Province. Pretty cool to see a real Nihonto, not some Chinese knockoff stamped out. This was hand-forged, finished in September of 1992. We don't know how long this took to make. Some swords take a month, some take several months. We don't know how many apprentices helped out Kunitada when he made this. And this might have been one of his lesser swords, one of his greatest swords. I don't know. I've never met the man. I assume he's still alive, born in 1954. But look at the beautiful craftsmanship to this. This is the equivalent in Lord of the Rings of getting an elven blade made by Elrond or someone like that. So those of you who know Tolkien, you would appreciate these blades. This is a very short and light and fast blade because of the bohi here, which takes a lot of the weight out. The balance point is right about there, which is really pretty close to the hands where you want it. You don't want these blades to be super top heavy. Just a beautiful, thin, small katana could easily pierce through the chinks in the armor of the yoroi or slash off someone's arm easily in the hands of a practitioner of kenjutsu. Okay, so now we're looking at the blade itself, and if you look at this, this is the grain pattern of the blade, which is called the hara. The hara is the blade pattern, or the grain of the blade. This blade is a typical hara, which is common. It's called a wood grain pattern, and it's hard to see the detail, but it's in there, this wood grain pattern up here. Here you have the ha, the sharp edge here, and the mune, which is the spine or the back of the blade. And you have a bohi here. Now the hamon is this line here. Hamon literally means the edge badge. So it's where it refers to the line that separates the hardened, unclayed portion, which is this part of the blade, from the softer, tempered blade surface up here. This part is more brittle and hard to hold the edge of the blade. This part is softer, tempered differently, so that it can take blows when you block or clash with your blades. So this hamon is a gunome choji. Gunome choji just means that it's just called a clove seed pattern or an undulating clove seed pattern. There's several different types of hamon depending on how the swordsmith shaped it or put the clay on there. This is a really beautiful pattern here. So this blade has a bohi, which is called the fuller, where now it's a groove that's carved into the blade that helps reduce the weight slightly without making sacrifices to its durability. The fuller here often changes the weight of the blade, and you want a lighter blade so that you can move faster. You want the balance point closer to your hands up here. You don't want the balance point too far out, or if it's too top heavy, because you'll overextend your cuts, leaving you open for attack. And I'll show you what I mean by that another day. But the bohi, this has a lot of misconceptions about it, about its purpose. When stabbing, usually swords will not become lodged in a human being. They come right out, they slide in, they slide out. A lot of people misname this bohi as a chamber that allows the air and the suction to come out of the opponent so that you can pull the sword out easily. I don't think that was the purpose of it at all from my studies. So letting go of the suction, that's a false misnomer. It's not designed for the blood to flow out of the wound either to make it faster. Again, you would bleed out if you were stabbed by one of these quick enough. You don't need any help from the fuller. I mean, it's possible blood drained down there and would cover your hands. I don't know, I wasn't there. But if you train with a good kenjutsu teacher, he or she has already shared these misconceptions with you. So you guys already know, but people love the fantasy part of swords. All these details I'm sharing with you really have no value, except, they're just geeky little things that we're going over. But in a real fight, the parts of the sword, the names, even in some cases how it's built, is not going to matter as much as how you use the sword in battle. That's what's important, not the correct functions of the parts. So this is the bohi, the fuller here, and many European swords have the same thing. In this case, it goes all the way up, almost to the kisaki here. It goes way up into the boshi here. And this is a very light, shorter blade. Beautiful. Here at the end of the blade, you can see the boshi has an irregular wavy pattern, which is called a medare komi here. The kisaki shape is a hirazukuri, which basically means it's a nearly flat blade without a ridge on it. Hirazukuri type, and all of these, the ends of these swords have different shapes, sizes, lengths. Some are longer, some are shorter. I call them a shark fin because it looks like a little shark fin. Here is a fault in this blade. I don't know if you can see there's some light scratching here on both sides. It almost looks like someone stabbed something with it over the years at some point. So the only fault I can see are some scratches here on the hamon up into the boshi here. And other boring specs about this blade. The entire length is 26.93 inches. The sori, or the curve, which is it's hard to see, but the curve of the blade, which is called the sori, from the tip to the back, is about 0.63. So doesn't have a huge curve like a tachi on it. It has some curve, which does help with the cutting. Near the bottom of the blade, it is 1.28 here. Width, and the width near the top up here is 0.86. The blade weighs 1.23 pounds. And of course, it's a little bit heavier. This is a very, very lighter than many in my collection, this blade here. Really highly crafted quality when you swing it. And you can really feel the difference when you swing this through the air, the amazing quality of it. Now, I don't know if this has any distal temper on it, this blade. I don't think it does. And I can't tell by looking, so it might have a distal taper, but I can't see it looking at the mune, the back of the blade here. But you have to admire these as literally works of art. How many people took to create this one piece of metal, literally designed to take a life, but also to save them by banishing evil or allowing its practitioner sanity in an otherwise insane world. Be careful touching the hara here. You don't want to get your oily, greasy hands on it, or it will rust. So you want to keep these clean, and if you can think about it, cover it with some sort of oil. Some people even tell me they use a gun oil, and it works quite well. I'm not sure. I'm not going to try it on this blade. I'm going to use some choji oil, perhaps. So there you see it. This beautiful Nihonto blade here. Imagine fighting that thing and it going right through your armor. Would be a bad day on the battlefield meeting this thing. I don't have a name for this sword yet, so in the comments, if you want to leave a suggestion for a name, a good blade has to have a good name. Alright, let's go over the koshira, the fittings here. This here is called the habaki. It's a small piece that encloses the base of the sword. See how it aligns here and goes right up against the blade, protecting it there. And this is designed, obviously, to lock the suba, the guard, in place. And it's also important how it's designed. And these were designed just like the blade with a lot of care, so that it was the perfect thickness for the saya, the scabbard, so that you could draw the sword quickly. This is what determines how you lock the blade in the scabbard. If it's too loose, the blade will fall out when you're running. If it's too tight, it'll be impossible to pull free. So the habaki was an important piece to the sword here, and it just sits up there. This one is a shonai, which means matte antique finish. It's made of silver on the top at least. Then here you have these seppa, which are little spacers or washers here. And this one looks like it might be made of iron, maybe brass, I'm not sure. It's already faded in color from the patina here. And this goes right up against the habaki. You can see here this beautiful Tsuba guard. The guard was a really important part of the sword because it kept your hands from sliding along the blade, which I have done twice in my life. I worked with swords that were shitasaya and hit a tree, and my hands went right up the blade because I didn't have a guard on it. So this not only protects your hands from this blade of the enemy, but it keeps your hands from sliding onto the blade. This Tsuba guard is antique iron, and it has a vine design on it, as you can see, and it's inlaid with gold. Beautifully handmade. This side you can actually see the hammer marks here, where someone actually hammered that, probably him. Really interesting. I don't know why these are here, but I don't know enough about the guard to know why those are there. Whether that's a defect or they were getting the sword off, who knows. Beautiful guard here. And the space here sometimes could be used if you had a kozuka knife on your scabbard. You would slide this little knife through here, a little tiny knife sitting in your scabbard, which was used as a shuriken, so that you could slide your knife through and the guy at least expects it. Throw your knife and quickly dispatch him with your sword. But I rarely see a kozuka knife nowadays. After the guard slides again, here you have a second collar or seppa here, little washer, which holds this on. Then you're ready to put the ska on. Here you have the fuchi, this little collar, which is at the top part of the handle. And this is where the wrapping stops. And then on the back side you have the kashira, which is the pommel or the butt cap here. And this is a matching set. Some sort of carved arabesque design. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's just scrolling of some sort. And that would have been hand carved as well. Beautiful. Don't know what this is made of. Perhaps iron, brass, I'm not sure. This is a very short handle in my opinion, but remember, Japanese people are far shorter, and back then they were even shorter. So the samurai was probably roughly 5 feet tall. So this would have been an average sized handle back then. For me, it's too short. I would like about a 13-inch handle, maybe even 14, because my hands are bigger, but it really would depend on the swordsmith and perhaps the person and the size and height of the person he's making it for. I'm not sure. This is the ska, which is the handle of the sword, and this has ray skin here. This is ray skin, sometimes shark skin. It's got the oyatsubu, which are the large emperor pearl, on the omote side here, which are the really big pearl-looking things here. This is wrapped with a dark brown suka ito, which is made of silk. Beautiful brown silk. It's got the Moto Hineri style of wrapping, which is this crisscross pattern. A lot of swords have different types of patterns of wrapping here. This is a fairly common style. As you can see, the hole here where the makugi pin goes in. And again, depending on the size of the tang, you might have two of these. This only has one right here. So this is where this goes in and keeps the handle on the blade. The menuki, which are these ornaments here. There's one on each side, one higher, one lower. These originally covered the mekugi pegs, so they were designed, these were made to cover the hole or to keep the little mekugi pin so it didn't fall out. So these were often covering up these, and sometimes on handles of swords the holes are underneath these, so you have to kind of disassemble this, but I'm not going to touch these. These mekugi also swelled the handle for gripping, kept your hands out a bit more. Some say you should place your hands in certain position. I don't know about that. This looks to me like engraved flowers under here. I really can't see too much, and I don't want to move the wrapping because the wrapping is really tight, which is the sign of a good sword. If your wrapping moves, it's a cheap sword. These look like some sort of carved flowers or something there. Interesting. I don't know what that's made of either. So this would slide back here, putting the sword back together. This saya is really high quality. This scabbard here, you can see the koiguchi, all handmade to fit the collar, habaki here. Really heavy quality wood. I don't know if this is like a bull horn up here on the carp's mouth. I'm not sure. It's really well constructed. There are no markings, no places where your hand will get caught up for quick drawing. The finish is really high quality. It's got 4 different colors on it, which is called a shime. So I don't know if you can see the speckle design. It's like brown with black. And it looks like several layers of paint on here. Very, very heavy. Not at all cheap quality. The sageo is unbelievably fancy. This one in a dark kind of pine green. I don't know if that's silk or cotton. I'm not sure. It could be one or the other. Look how thick that is. That is awesome. And again, you can untie this if you want. I prefer it decoratively tied there, but the sageo is used for many purposes. Really beautiful scabbard. Kojiri, which is the end butt cap here, is iron with a polished surface. And this was often used to smash somebody. I mean, we weren't there, of course, but I've used it a lot in my training where you hit the opponent with a nice kind of boshiken strike here. Or you could even, I guess you could dig a hole with it if you needed to. It could be used for many purposes. Beautiful design for a beautiful sword. Now I'll reassemble the sword so we can put it back together. Okay, putting her back together. Abaki, Seppa, Suba, Seppa number 2, Ska, and Mekugi pin. Wiping free of dust and back in the saya here, slowly, respectfully returning her back here. There you have this beautiful sword, this Nihonto. I love it. Beautiful, powerful in battle, swings like there's no tomorrow, light as a feather, quick. Again, I use the phrase elvish made, but made by a wonderful swordsmith in Japan. I will take care of this as an heirloom. It is a beautiful sword. I'm honored to have it, and I will take care of it to appreciate the history of it and to pass on the tradition to my students. I thank you guys for watching today and enjoying this wonderful weapon of peace here, and I hope that you start a sword collection wherever you live. One is enough, but if you have 100 and something like I do, there are always a few beauties like this that will stick out of the crowd. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and you'll get a bunch more videos. Click that dumb little bell thing, click the like button if you like this, and become part of our dojo community here, where we try to preserve the martial arts of Japan, China, and all of the other countries. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.